The Esoterics of Japa. Knowing the meaning of the mantra is very helpful when the devotee is visualizing it at the same time. Then he also knows when he reaches the goal which the mantra is supposed to produce within him. Since most mantras are in Sanskrit, it is easy enough to find the meaning in the Sanskrit dictionary. We must remember that the first mantras were given in the language spoken by the people. Sanskrit mantras were given to people who spoke Sanskrit. Yet, mantras could be phrased in other ancient sacred languages as well. It is just the Sanskrit language relates to the unfoldment of the inner being, which most other languages don't do as much. However, even in the English language or any language, rituals are performed that do invoke the spirit forces of the religion. It just so happens that in Hinduism, Sanskrit is the most accepted language of all, agreed upon by the Hindu hierarchy of all three worlds. Japa is a sadhana, and all sadhanas are repetitive. Japa is taking a few words as a mantra and repeating it over and over again for mind control and personal enlightenment. This would attract good beings on the astral plane and strengthen the protective aura of the individual doing japa. There is no reason to think that performing japa would affect the astral world in any way other than to bring forth the goodness, compassion, and admiration of the beings there toward the devotee performing this discipline. Namak Shivaya Om and Om Sharvana Baba have been revealed for spiritual unfoldment. They are not for magical purposes, nor is japa intended for healing or other aims in the physical realm. True Japanese Buddhist chant Om Namo Myoho Renge Kyo for success, jobs, and wealth. But this is not japa in the Hindu understanding. Japa leads to spiritual renunciation, Raja Yoga to enlightenment, stimulating the chakras of the head. Japa is never used in the Hindu tradition to pray for material things. Hindus do pray for material blessings, health, and abundance, but not through the use of mantras or japa. For these, they turn to prayers, songs, and ritual, which stimulate the chakras of willpower, reason, and cognition, giving the worshipper physical, emotional, and mental vigor to bring the worldly goods into his hands. Mantras for japa are usually short but not always. The Gayatri mantra, consisting of 13 words, is an example of rather long mantra. In summary, japa is religiously repeating just a few important, well defined words, syllables, or seed sounds called bija to awaken the higher nature. Where did mantras come from? Mystical shlokas came from the rishis of ancient times who held conversations with the great Mahadevas and Devas of the inner worlds. Out of this developed certain rituals that could, when performed properly, create certain causes in the physical world. In the English language, we sometimes call these affirmations. An affirmation, as presented in our teachings, is generally for self improvement. One is talking to his own subconscious mind. Because every sound has a color and creates a form on the astral plane, when pronounced, the mantra must be pronounced properly, slowly, thoughtfully, with feeling, mentally seeing the color, mentally hearing the sound. The ideal way to perform japa 108 times is by also listening to the Nadanadi Shakti, the high E sound one hears within the head when in a high state of consciousness. To perform japa quickly, as in a marathon, sometimes called machine gun japa, brings little benefit. If you don't have time to do japa, don't do it at all. It should not be a meaningless ritual. It should be a very meaningful experience. When we perform japa aloud, it is easier to concentrate the thought. The mantra is heard and therefore our mind does not wander. We must remember that letting the mind wander into relevant thoughts mitigates the benefits of the japa. Therefore, we must remain concentrated. We perform japa, which is a sadhana, for pragmatic benefits. There is no other reason. Therefore, we should keep our mind on what we are doing. Visualize the proper colors that the mantra produces from one stage to the next. In Sharavana Bhava Om, we visualize light blue fading into white and fading back into light blue, back and forth. Sharavana Bhava Om, Sharavana Bhava Om, Sharavana Bhava Om. Blue is the color of Akasha, either, and Sharavana Bhava takes us there. Once the japa is perfected, aloud, simply moving the lips but not making a sound, and then later making the sound internally without moving the lips, may do it silently. The ultimate accomplishment in the performance of japa is the yoga of going to sleep while verbally and mentally pronouncing the mantra, which continues during the sleeping hours. Upon awakening, the same mantra is still being repeated mentally and then verbally without a break in continuity. This is quite an accomplishment, but it has been done.
Oh.